Good morning. I'm enjoying my espresso this morning. Oh, what a difference that makes. So this is part of my process of addressing the day. I get up, brush my teeth, prepare my espresso, and come and set up my meditation / studio, as humble as it may be, and sit down and begin sharing. So this is part of the process of creating today. And if I have to be out and about, there's more things. A lot more to get ready to go outside and face the world. And it's a process, and I'm a creature of habits. So I have steps, and preparing the outside of the body, but also paying attention to what's going on inside. Checking my decorum. Because how we interact with the world is really a measure of who we are. Entering or maintaining the state of equanimity. And just as the relationship with those outside, the so-called other, which we learn to recognize as ourselves. So it doesn't take much to be on your best behavior if you acknowledge and recognize the oneness. So your demeanor is of a constant importance. It's a reflection of what's going on inside at any given moment. To keep your equilibrium is of utmost importance and very much worthy of the time and attention that it demands. And today I was thinking about what I call the Inner Sanctum, the sacred place within. I've addressed it before: shelter from the storm, the place that you go to withdraw, to escape, to find a sense of balance and peace within. And I suggest that if you're not in this habit already, that you develop it, enhance it, so it becomes intrinsic part of your basic nature. And this inner sanctum, I spoke a few days ago, last week sometime, about learning in the Renzai Zen dojo in Hawaii that I visited and joined and spent great times learning. There's a protocol. When we're approaching the meditation room, you go through this process of your breathing. You remember, you consider, you reflect. Mindfulness. Mindfulness should just emanate from your pores. So this protocol, as we go on the grounds, and by the way, the grounds were pretty extensive and well maintained, sort of a Zen garden. Everything was neatly trimmed and always understated, but beautiful, peaceful, meandering paths that you could practice walking meditation. But when it came time to go to the meditation hall, as I mentioned, there's a protocol, how you approach it. We're all wearing our gis, our martial art exercise clothes, and we all have white belts because there's no rank, there's no different colors. Those of you that practice martial art, you know about the hierarchy, how you progress. White belt is normally the novice, the newcomer, and you progress ultimately to black belt in most traditions. But you go through some greens and some browns and some reds, and it's immediately identified with you wearing a white gi, and your belt reflects a status, a mastery. But here, in the spirit of equality, we all are, from the Roshi to the newest, or white belts. But the approach to the meditation hall, you came in orderly from either side. Place your slippers in a very specific place, organized. But it showed that you pay attention to details, because details are sometimes really important. There's a time and a place for details. I'm not always so enamored with details, but there's time and a place when being meticulous is important. So, attitude. You've quieted. You've already greeted your friends before you approach the meditation hall. You embrace silence. Put your slippers carefully. Step in the middle of the entrance door, just outside, one step outside, and bow, and then enter to the sides and take a place in the meditation circle. So this attention to detail, this internal preparation is the same. I adopted this when I'm approaching my inner sanctum. there's a preparation of respect, a discipline to approaching it. And most importantly, through breathing, through remembering to be in the moment, to leave your cares behind, to leave your anticipation. Cares and anticipation, past and future, leave them behind. So this sacredness of approaching the inner sanctum, the protocols, for me is very important, so that I don't sully this sacred spot. One more sip, if you will. I put the same effort, by the way, the same mindfulness into the preparation of my espresso. I love the process of preparing, and I think the end result reflects the efforts. Just two is going within, retreating to the inner sanctum is made a cleaner and better experience by the preparation. It takes a conscious level of effort. And this is only to enhance the time spent in the inner sanctum, as well as reinforce, protect, and value this space. So our meditation room at the Zen Renzai temple, the meditation center was kept with very high vibration. It was a very sacred spot. And this is why it's important for us all to create a spot where we sit. I'm looking at my chair as I sit facing you. And this is my sacred place, my room. In addition to having my exquisite espresso, I have my favorite incense burning. It's a preparation, and I have definitely a pattern of preparation for this presentation, for this sharing. And it's not difficult. In fact, it's become second nature for me to proceed in a like manner in everything that I do. When I go down to drive my car, I go down to the parking garage and get in my car. I thoroughly warm my car up before I drive away. And at that time, as I'm waiting, I collect myself, have a short meditation, a concentration, a focusing on the task at hand, letting other things go. And I like patterns. And so I consciously think of the best, what I have to do, the sequence of events, the places I have to drive to, and how I'm going to get there. It's all mapped up. I'm not big on Google Map. I have my own map system in mind. And actually hearing the voice telling me where to turn right, turn left is more of a distraction than an aid. But I'm not beyond having a passenger in the car that likes this and uses it and becomes a backseat driver even though they're in the front. I'm not adverse to this, especially when I'm going somewhere new. I'm in a town or an environment that I'm not familiar with. But all I'm saying is that the same attention, the same effort that I get up in the morning, prepare myself to meet the day, is a routine, a pattern. But it's a pattern with a purpose. It's a routine that has inherent meaning, because within the routine is the breathing, is the expansion of my aura to acknowledge and greet the day. I put the same effort into the feeding the kitty in the morning, feeding our kitty in the morning. Put the same effort into preparing his kibbles as I do in my espresso, my breakfast that I usually will take after I finish my morning presentation, if I have one planned, such as today. But attentiveness, being aware of why you have routines, and that routines serve a purpose. It's a preparation for all of your being. And this inner sanctum, this creation, this visualization is crucial. You can carry your inner sanctum. You do carry your inner sanctum wherever you go. And as you become familiar, it's readily available. And it's all part of mindfulness, a conscious effort to maintain your state of mind. The state of mind that's most important to you, the state of mind that seems to come to you in your practice. For some, it's that embracing of silence, that quieting your mind, that leads to clarity. For others, it's acceptance and balance and breathing and embracing equanimity. Equanimity meaning that no matter what comes your way, be it good or bad, you face it and greet it and deal with it in a constant, balanced state of mind. And the rewards for me of equanimity are incalculable. But it takes diligence. It does take effort. Efforts become second nature, become automatic. But just because they're automatic, it should not lessen their value. So be aware that a habit not carefully considered, not remembered with the importance of why you began this habit. As a teacher, I would always ask Taiwanese, my students, what is your hobbies? And they would mix up hobbies and habit. And they really didn't have hobbies in the way that, most of them didn't have hobbies in the way that many of Western people do. It was always interesting to notice. And I would suggest that they find a hobby if it served a purpose for them. And I laugh because the two words, habit and hobby, when I really reflected on it, one of my hobbies, one of my activities that I enjoy doing is habits. Hobby and habits. So my hobby, one of my hobbies is creation, sustenance, tweaking. My habits. So that the difference being that there's a certain amount of, or a lot of mindfulness in my habitual behaviors. So to the point that my protocol, just as I approach the meditation hall with reverence, equanimity, respect, so too do I approach the day. I always pay particular attention, a lot of times, other than sharing with you if it's in my schedule for the day. I maintain silence in the morning. And my first interaction with a fellow traveler, a human being, I pay particular attention to how I express myself, how that interaction goes. A lot of times the only way to really sense my overall mood, if you will, is how I greet, how that first interaction goes. Sometimes I can be a little terse, and maybe I think, oh, I'm a little grumpy today. Or sometimes I'm... So anyway, this is how I gauge. This is my benchmark, my interaction, my first interaction of the day. And I'm not married to whatever emotion I found myself. And it's not predictable. Sometimes I'm open and friendly and engaging. Other times I'm close to the vest, mind my own counsel, keep the interaction to the minimum. At home, I'm up before my wife. I'm usually finished with this before she gets up to begin her day. And she's the type of person that she's not a morning person. She needs to gather her senses, and I really keep the dialogue out of respect to her to a minimum. So most days she wakes up in the same pattern. If you bother her too much, she'll be a little grumpy. If you respect her space, let her wake up. Let her have her first cup of tea. Better yet, make breakfast for her like I do every morning. I bring her breakfast. And usually, after she's had her tea, after she's had some breakfast, she's ready to greet the world. So whereas my mood can be unpredictable, and honestly, until I have that first interaction, I really don't know what mood I'm in. Am I happy? Am I... Well, the gamut of emotions, I don't need to list them here. Because my state is constant. And not only this equanimity, a calmness, an acceptance of whatever comes my way, but it calls for awareness. It calls for effort. These states, we need to sustain them. And I help to sustain them by my patterns of habitual behavior that have developed through conscious effort to the point that they become unconscious. And even deeper than unconscious is the subconscious. So try to bring these practices to the level of subconscious, where it sits below. It's the support, the floor upon which you stand and build. And you can watch it filter up through the subconscious to the conscience. Hopefully you're never unconscious. Even in sleep, I don't feel unconscious. I'm engaged in sleep. The dreaming, my sleep patterns are all bordering on in between conscious and subconscious. Hopefully, not much time is dwelling on unconsciousness. So the value of this inner sanctum, the way you treat and respect yourself, goes far to speak to how you regard what you perceptually see as the other, which you consciously embrace the other as just an extension, just a part of who and what you are. So too, the reverence, the effort that you devote to yourself, beginning, I'll remind you, with forgiveness. Forgiveness is part of my ritual of ridding karma from yesterday. Every morning, through reverence, through self-respect, through evaluation, I offer up yesterday's karma to the violet consuming flame. And this has become part of my ritual as I go into my inner sanctum. And this is all made possible through forgiveness. Forgiveness is an art and needs to be continually practiced. And the key to forgiving others is self-forgiveness. I'll do better today than yesterday. It deserves a conscious effort. And then, once the procedure has all been met, and I'm in the proper state of being, only then will I enter my inner sanctum. And it can be as brief as gathering your senses, gathering your faculties. It can be as brief as a breath. Or, if need be, the day could be spent in your inner sanctum. It's the attitude, it's the appreciation, it's the routine, making hobby out of habits. Conscious effort that becomes subconscious.